Because so many operators are now really attempting to cut costs and they're doing frac jobs without any surfactants or any additives, without getting into any particular names of surfactants or fluid systems, what have you, why would an operator want to increase their cost by adding some of these additives or surfactants back to these stimulations, especially since they do increase the cost of the system?
You know, I understand the pressures for cutting costs up front, but I think what happens is you're missing the cost benefits you get by the increased production that you would get from a CnF type fluid or breakers. And we get an increased production, increased reserves, as well as less emulsion, less production problems. So I would prefer to spend a little bit more money up front, knowing that I'll get that and more in the end.
So your expectations are really driven by these systems about the performance of the well ultimately, as well as just post-job easier management.
Yeah, I'm very much interested in the ultimate production, as well as even, again, avoiding emulsions, avoiding even short-term problems, which will cost me more money, maybe not on day one, but maybe on day 7, day 30, or 6 months from now.
So you think these do have long-term impact?
I know they do. I've seen them in too many results now where I've got much better production. I've been involved in numerous studies where I've seen that, and I've just seen it on things so simple as adding CnF products to my flowbacks or my drill out procedures, and I see that it cuts my swab time by a day or two.
So these really do establish your expectations and your ability to measure whether or not the expectations are met.
Yes, I mean, there are some that you have to wait 6 months or a year to see the final development by increased production. And there are other things that are just overnight. You see that the well kicked off sooner than we have seen previous wells do. You
mentioned some studies that were done. Are those part of the establishment of your expectations?
Yeah, very much so. I've been involved in from core studies, involving more lab research, to full production studies in basins from Green River Basin, Bakken, DJ Basin, all investigating production and all showing very positive results from the additives that we've used.
What led you into a consideration of using the complex nanofluid? And it does cost more, but you have decided apparently from your comments that it's a valuable additive.
It's interesting. It really comes from my background of working in the lab from 30 years ago, where we were initially using just very basic surfactants or soaps to help improve water recoveries. We went from using surfactants and methanol or non-emulsifiers in a very basic concept. So we saw the advantages of using them. So I was very open to trying new types of products. And we saw the advantages of the CnF, which has the surfactant capabilities, non-emulsifying capabilities, combined with the solvent technologies. I was very ready to try something like that.
Since this is a somewhat more expensive additive, when you introduced this to folks that you worked with, how did you go about getting them to be agreeable and allow you to move forward with it?
First of all, what we did was talk about the advantages of lower pressures and still being able to produce the same amount of production at those lower pressures. We talked about non-emulsifying properties and the type of money you'd save on that. And you'd hope that that would carry through. But even if that wasn't good enough, many times we would set up pilot programs where we would say on a 10-well program that we'll offer some sort of a cost reduction to allow you to go ahead and see, will this product work for you or not? And I can say, I can't think of a case that in our pilot programs that after 10 wells, we didn't have the customer carrying on with the CnF product.
What kind of pushback did you experience from it?
The typical was, again, we're trying to cut costs, and I understand that completely, especially being in a managerial role now. The pressure is always to try to cut costs and to look at what's in front of you right now. The pushback is, can I wait 3 months and really document this increased production? And so that's the pushback. So what we tried to do was to create a situation or pilot projects where we took the cost situation out of it. We really have seen in the past that using these products, that the CnF, it was really a do no harm type product. We knew we weren't going to damage the well or hurt it in any fashion. So the only really pushback was really cost. So if we could take cost out of the picture in the pilot program, then we could have enough time to go ahead and evaluate whether we could justify the additional cost of the product.
So a real key piece to the story is for the communication, for others to be aware of the results.
Very much so. That's why it was always important to do a pilot program. And one thing we tried to do was we'll offer a cost savings and a cost benefit if we can take this and be able to show it to other operators. And that allows us to sort of spread the risk out and the costs out for everyone. But once again, once you can show that the improved production, most operators would quickly jump on board.